Have you ever met someone who could make people agree with them effortlessly? Like every word they say just clicks with others? It's not luck. It's psychological persuasion. Every day, from a friend convincing you to try a new show, to brands making you buy what you never planned. Persuasion is quietly shaping your choices. It doesn't shout. It whispers. A certain tone of voice, a confident pause, a perfectly chosen word. And before you realize it, your brain has already decided to say yes. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on that invisible power, the real psychology behind persuasion, and 5 subtle hacks that make people trust, listen, and agree with you almost instantly. By the end of this video, you'll not only see through these tactics when others use them on you, but you'll know exactly how to use them ethically to build trust, win respect, and naturally influence anyone. In this video, you'll uncover 5 powerful persuasion triggers proven by psychology, the same principles top leaders, marketers, and negotiators use every single day. No manipulation, no mind games, just clear, ethical communication that helps you connect deeper and earn genuine influence. If you've ever wished people would simply listen, trust, and say yes more often, this is where it starts. The power of liking. Have you ever noticed how much easier it is to agree with someone you genuinely like? It's almost automatic. A friend you trust suggests a movie, and before you even think twice, you're saying, "Sure, let's watch it." That's not logic, that's psychological liking in action. When we like someone, our brain quietly lowers its defenses. We listen longer, we argue less, and we start to assume they're right. It's a survival mechanism built deep into human wiring. Similarity equals safety. The simplest way to trigger that feeling is to find common ground. When people sense that you share their values, struggles, or sense of humor, they start seeing you as one of them. Their emotional guard drops, and trust begins to build without a single persuasive word being spoken. But liking isn't just about being friendly. It's about being genuinely interested. Ask questions that make people feel seen. Listen without interrupting. Remember small details about their lives. These micro moments of attention signal authenticity, and authenticity creates warmth. Compliments work too, but only when they're real. A forced compliment feels like flattery. A sincere one feels like recognition. When you notice something specific, the effort someone put into a project, their calm under pressure, their creativity, your words land deeper. Real appreciation activates the same pleasure centers in the brain as receiving a reward. Another subtle ingredient in liking is mirroring. When 2 people unconsciously match tone, posture, or pace of speech, their brains release oxytocin, the bonding chemical. You don't have to copy anyone. Just stay present enough to naturally reflect their energy. It makes communication feel effortless. What's fascinating is that liking doesn't just make persuasion easier. It makes it invisible. When you like someone, you don't feel persuaded, you feel understood. That's why the most influential people never push. They align. They don't demand agreement. They create it. Think about your favorite teacher, mentor, or leader. Chances are you respected them not just because of what they knew, but because of how they made you feel, valued, respected, connected. That's the true power of liking. It turns influence into a shared experience instead of a contest of wills. So, before trying to convince anyone, pause and connect. Find something you genuinely admire. Listen with curiosity. Match their rhythm. When people feel liked, they open their minds. And when minds are open, persuasion becomes effortless. The most powerful persuaders don't force agreement. They earn it, one genuine connection at a time. The rule of reciprocity. Imagine walking into a store, and before you even buy anything, the clerk offers you a free sample. You taste it, smile, and suddenly, you feel a small pull, that quiet sense of, I should give something back. That's not guilt. That's reciprocity. One of the most powerful psychological triggers in human behavior. From the earliest tribes to modern society, humans survived by exchanging favors. Giving and returning created trust, and trust built communities. That ancient wiring still runs deep inside our minds today. Whenever someone gives us something, time, attention, help, or value, our brain automatically creates a mental debt we want to repay. Marketers know this well. A free trial, a bonus, a no-strings-attached offer. They're not just generosity. They're psychological sparks that activate the rule of reciprocity. Once we receive something of value, we subconsciously feel the urge to respond, often by saying yes. But reciprocity isn't manipulation when used right. It's about creating balance, not control. When you help people without expectation, you trigger trust. They may not repay you immediately, but they'll remember, because kindness leaves a mental bookmark in people's minds. In real conversations, reciprocity shows up in subtle ways. When you listen deeply, people start listening to you. When you give respect, you get respect back. Even a small gesture, like offering advice, encouragement, or honesty, creates a quiet emotional exchange that builds connection faster than any clever argument ever could. There's also a deeper layer: emotional reciprocity. When you share something personal, others often open up too. Vulnerability invites vulnerability. That's why some of the most persuasive moments don't happen through perfect logic. They happen through honest sharing. But here's the key: reciprocity only works when it feels authentic. If people sense your kindness is strategic, the effect reverses. Their brain shifts from gratitude to defense. The magic disappears. So don't give to get. Give because it aligns with who you are. Think of it this way: every act of generosity plants a seed of influence. Some grow instantly, others take time, but they all shape how people feel about you. And in persuasion, feelings are everything. So before you ask for anything, give something first. Offer value, share insight, make someone's day lighter. Because the simple truth is this: people rarely say yes to requests, but they almost always say yes to relationships. The rule of reciprocity isn't about getting more. It's about creating connections that naturally lead to yes. Social proof and validation. Have you ever hesitated to try a new restaurant until you saw a long line of people waiting outside? Suddenly, it feels worth it. That's social proof, the silent psychological cue that says, if others are doing it, it must be right. Our brains are wired to seek safety in numbers. In moments of uncertainty, we look to others for guidance. It's an ancient survival instinct. When the tribe moved, following them meant protection. Standing alone could mean danger. Even today, that same instinct quietly shapes how we think, buy, and believe. Look at social media. A post with thousands of likes instantly feels more credible than one with 10, even if the content is identical. Reviews, testimonials, and visible approval create emotional shortcuts for trust. We assume that if many people believe something, it's probably true. But social proof isn't just about numbers, it's about belonging. Humans crave validation, and validation often comes through imitation. When we see others acting with confidence, our brain mirrors that certainty. That's why laughter spreads in crowds, why trends catch fire overnight, and why opinions often shift not through facts, but through group emotion. In persuasion, social proof works best when it feels relatable. People trust people who seem like them. If you're trying to convince someone, don't just show popularity, show relevance. Instead of saying, millions use this, say, people just like you are using this. That tiny shift makes the brain say, if they can, so can I. You'll see this principle everywhere, from politicians mentioning what most people want, to brands using real customer stories instead of scripted ads. Each example whispers the same message: you're not alone in this choice. But there's a fine line between influence and pressure. If social proof feels forced or exaggerated, it backfires. Fake reviews, inflated numbers, or manipulative claims trigger skepticism. Authenticity is the heartbeat of persuasion. Real people, real emotions, real outcomes, that's what builds trust. Here's the hidden power. When you combine liking, reciprocity, and social proof, persuasion becomes effortless. You connect emotionally, give genuinely, and then let people see that others already believe in what you're saying. The brain interprets that pattern as safety, and safety opens the door to agreement. So next time you want to persuade, show the evidence of belief. Share stories, testimonials, reactions, or examples of people already taking that step. Let your audience see that the bridge you're asking them to cross has already carried others safely across. Because when people see proof, they don't just follow, they feel confident following. And in persuasion, confidence is everything. The scarcity effect, picture this. You're scrolling online and see a message that says, only 2 items left. Suddenly your heart beats a little faster. You weren't even planning to buy it, but now it feels urgent. That's the scarcity effect, one of the most powerful emotional triggers in human psychology. At its core, scarcity isn't about the product, it's about perception. When something seems limited, our brain automatically assumes it's valuable. It's the same instinct that made our ancestors grab food before it ran out, or protect rare resources for survival. Even today, that primal reaction still controls much of our modern decision-making. Psychologists call it the fear of missing out, FOMO. And it's not just about money or objects. It works with time, opportunities, even people. A message that says, last chance, limited time, or exclusive access doesn't just communicate information, it creates emotion. That emotion drives action faster than logic ever could. But scarcity only works when it feels real. Artificial pressure, like fake countdowns or empty urgency, can destroy trust. Once people sense manipulation, they shut down completely. True persuasion comes from authentic scarcity, something that genuinely has value or limited availability. Think about how this shows up in daily life. A mentor's time is limited, which makes their attention meaningful. A person who doesn't always say yes becomes more respected. Even silence, when used at the right moment, feels rare and powerful. In human relationships, scarcity often means self-respect. People value what they can't easily have. When you don't over-explain, over-chase, or over-offer, you naturally create space. That space creates curiosity, and curiosity is the beginning of influence. The key is balance. Too much distance feels cold. Too much availability feels ordinary. True persuasion lives in the middle, where you're accessible but not desperate, valuable but not scarce by force. Marketers, leaders, and negotiators all understand this subtle dance. They don't just offer things, they frame them. The same message can feel forgettable or irresistible depending on how it's presented. Enroll anytime sounds casual. Enroll before midnight. Doors close soon. Sparks movement. Scarcity doesn't make people irrational. It makes them emotional. And emotion, not logic, is what truly drives decisions. So next time you want to persuade, remember, people chase what feels rare, protect what feels valuable, and act fast when they feel time slipping away. But use it wisely, because false scarcity might win attention once, but real scarcity builds respect for a lifetime. When something is truly worth having, it doesn't need to shout. It just needs to remind people that opportunities don't wait forever. Authority and confidence. Have you ever noticed how some people can say the simplest thing and everyone listens? They don't shout, they don't argue, yet their words carry weight. That's the silent force of authority and confidence, the final pillar of persuasion. From childhood, we're conditioned to respond to authority. Parents, teachers, experts, people who seem certain guide our behavior. Our brains evolved to trust confident voices because in uncertain situations, following the surest person increased our chance of survival. That instinct still drives us today. Confidence doesn't mean arrogance. It means certainty. It's the calm in your tone, the steadiness in your words, the quiet belief that you know what you're saying. Because here's the truth. People don't just follow what's right. They follow what feels right. And confidence feels right. Think of any great speaker or leader. Their influence rarely comes from perfect logic. It comes from emotional authority. The way they own their message, how they pause, how they look directly at the audience. Their certainty gives others permission to believe. But authority isn't only about image. It's built on credibility. When you back your words with real knowledge, experience, or proof, your confidence becomes authentic. People can sense when someone truly understands their subject. They lean in, not because they're told to, but because they trust what they feel. Even small signals of authority make a big difference. Posture, eye contact, steady breathing, and controlled tone. These cues silently tell the brain, this person knows what they're talking about. The same message, delivered nervously, loses impact. Not because the words change, but because the energy behind them does. In persuasion, confidence is contagious. When you speak with certainty, people begin to mirror that certainty back. Your belief becomes their belief. That's why hesitation can break influence before logic even enters the room. But here's the delicate balance. Confidence without empathy becomes dominance. Authority without warmth creates distance. True influence lives in the middle, where confidence meets compassion. When you combine credibility with care, you don't just lead people, you guide them. So before you try to convince anyone, ground yourself first. Know what you stand for. Speak slower, breathe deeper. Let your conviction show not in volume, but in calmness. Because real authority isn't about forcing agreement, it's about inspiring trust. And when people trust you, persuasion stops feeling like effort. It becomes connection. Remember, people might question your logic, but they rarely question your confidence. And when confidence is backed by truth, that's when words turn into influence. At its core, persuasion isn't about control. It's about connection. It's not about making people obey you. It's about helping them understand you. When you combine all 5 principles, liking, reciprocity, social proof, scarcity, and authority, something powerful happens. People don't just hear your words, they feel them. They stop resisting because they sense honesty. They stop doubting because they feel safe. And that's when true influence begins, not through pressure, but through presence. You see, every human interaction is an invisible exchange of emotion. When you make people feel valued, respected, and understood, they naturally start trusting you. That trust is the foundation of persuasion, and once you have it, everything else becomes effortless. So before your next conversation, remember this. Don't try to impress people. Try to connect. Don't chase agreement. Build understanding. Because persuasion isn't a trick. It's a mirror of how deeply you understand human nature. If this video helped you see the psychology behind influence a little clearer, then help someone else see it too. Like this video, subscribe to Hidden Mind Lab, and share it with someone who loves exploring the human mind. Because the more you understand people, the less you have to convince them.